Habari Gani, welcome to Blacknificent by Harrell Kagler Presents. I am Dr. J. Harrell Sims, and today on Blacknificent, we have a wonderful guest, Jaziri, and we're going to be talking about leadership, our leaders of the past, and giving honorable mention to our leaders of the present. A little bit about Jaziri. She's a mother, daughter, wife, sister, and a Rafiki, that's a friend, dedicated to unpacking internalized inferiority for a lifetime while standing on the shoulders of giants to see and build collaboratively further the 10,000 generations, born and raised in the Detroit, my sis,
That's
and
right.
transplanted to Southern California, member of the IAYA, International Association for Yetu Africans, the BAM, Black Awakening Movement, and becoming a member of LEDGE, an organization building sovereignty through diasporic and indigenous Ujima. Welcome, Jaziri Hapi.
Akwaba, thank you so much for having me, beloved. It's good to be here.
I'm honored to have your presence. Today we're talking about our leadership, and you know, we have historically, and people don't understand, we have had our leaders chosen.
Yes.
Instead of us choosing. And so in our last episode, I talked about Dr. Vernon Johns, but we don't talk about him. We're taught about Dr. Martin Luther King, rest in power. I talk about Claudette Colvin, who we don't talk about, but we talk about Queen Rosa Parks. And so, Jesse Jackson, Alan Sharpton, all, people are chosen for us. And when they're chosen for us, we don't get the full benefit of the ancestral awakening or the teachings, or what we need as a collective is not met. And I'd love to get your take on that.
Absolutely. I mean, when we have our leaders chosen for us, so what happens is you get people that they put before us, like, let's say, Candace Owens, okay? She's chosen for us to undermine what we are saying, what our leaders have been saying. It's important that we have Kujichagulia, self-determination, to decide for ourselves who are the ancestors that we appreciate and follow and tune into and pour libation for. Who are the people that learned valuable lessons and have shared advice with us to carry forward. We get to decide that. And then also we've learned that the leader is born within, because we've learned in the past when we have someone out front center, they become easy targets. Well, when we're all leaders within, it's difficult to target us in that way. So we appreciate our leaders like Dr. John Henry Clark and Dr. Francis Cress Welsing and so many others. Let me stop this here. So yeah, it's important that we define ourselves for ourselves, determine our leaders for ourselves, and our children are always watching. Bring them into the classroom, bring them into our home. If they're not in your child's classroom, bring them into the home. Start Saturday school, or if you get story time, inject culture during story time at bedtime. But just by any means necessary, invoking the words of Baba Malcolm X, by any means necessary, get the information to them, because if we let the dominant society inculcate our children, they're going to imbue them with programs and ideas that go against our best interest. And so that's why I really love Dr. Amos Wilson. He's about decolonize by Africanize everything. And when we talk about the areas of people activity that Baba Neely Fuller talk about, you want to Africanize education, religion, law, sex, war, politics, and you even want to decolonize science, technology, technology. We look at the technology of this so-called COVID vaccine. People don't really know what that is. If you're African-centered, and you're decolonizing, you'd be familiar with, many of us would be familiar with the book Medical Apartheid, right? And we know to ask questions, and we have benchmarks that must be met, questions that must be answered. But a lot of us aren't asking those questions, aren't curious. It's just we've been trauma bonded. So we're back to this mentality of somebody's going to care for us. Someone, our oppressor, genuinely, somewhere in their heart, genuinely cares for us. When have they cared for us?
Absolutely. I mean, I have my, and speaking of that and leaders, we've been taught that we have to have a leader when we should all be raised to be leaders. And, just thinking of, I want to start with leaders of the past and then get to leaders of the present. And we may not, a lot of people don't agree with different leaders that we have. Our problem is that we put politics and theology in front of our survival, in front of everything. And because of that, we don't agree. Well, I don't like this leader because of that. I don't like that. The message is what we need to pay attention to. We want to shoot the messenger, but the message is important. Marcus Garvey, Ancestor Garvey, he had a powerful message. He said, do for self. If you don't, if we can't get what we need here, let's leave and go home and build. And the Liberical Americans went over there. And the problem with that was in Pedagogy of the Oppressed, it says there comes a point where the oppressed can become the oppressor. And so when you've been mentally enslaved and you go home, some people take that same oppressive mentality and then they project it onto the people there. And that's where the Liberical Americans made their mistake. And that's why Liberia's, and then the United States puts in who they want to govern, who they want to be in charge. And that's what's going on the continent. But Marcus Garvey had ships, he had fish markets, he had all kinds of things.
Yes.
So you talked about Amos Wilson. What tell us a little bit about Amos Wilson.
Baba Amos Wilson, he talks about the developmental psychology of the Black child. It is just so important to know that our children are born advanced. But a lot of times we are told that there's something wrong with them, especially our boys. And a lot of us, we find that our boys are steered towards special education. Our boys aren't allowed to just be boys. Everybody else's boys can just be boys, high energy and act without getting a phone call from the school. Your child is this, your child is that. You need to come. And early on, I didn't know that was a systemic game. So I fell for it. And it wasn't until later years that I realized, oh wow, the intent is for your child to never graduate out of this program. The intent is to suck the life out of them, the joy out of them, the tenacity about them, and steer them on to the prison industrial complex. So during my awakening, it was late. It was late in the game, but better late than never. I realized I need to bring these issues up in the meetings. And I realized I need to get our son around Black males who are aware of this programming, and that so I got them in an organization called Acoma, where they have a rites of passage program, and that's ran by Baba Nana Kwaku. I appreciate him, and he is ran by him and Baba Amiri. And so our son Cameron did about 2 summers of that, and he was resistant to it, but it was very good engagement, good exposure for him, because it's those moments where it's the only few times where he's around other African males, adult and young. And for my husband, it was important that, our son had that experience. And so he's also engaged with the 100 Black men. Again, it's good to have those examples there. And the males the brethren pouring into the young males. It brings the stories to them. The stories of let's see, what are some of the great kings of, let's see, Abubakari, tell the stories of Abubakari, tell the stories of Amenhotep. Our sons need to know that they come from that greatness, and then talk to them about the opportunities for building with our Indigenous brothers and sisters. That's one of the reasons I really like the Ledge organization. And that's the president of that organization, the CEO of that one is Peter Brown. And what Peter Brown has done, he saw an opportunity where indigenous Africans have the land and raw mineral resources of the people, and we diasporic Africans, especially here in America, we have the resources. Well, why don't we combine our talents and resources together so that we can build sovereignty? So the Ledge saw an opportunity to dig wells in Africa. They noticed in one area where the women were prostituting for water, like just our most basic needs, water, right? And so they were like, well, we can provide the solution ourselves. We don't need to ask Yoruba for support. And we know when they come over with their missions, they're gathering intelligence for how to take over and dominate. So instead, members joined the Ledge and they dug a well for that area. And they put inputs there for the people to grow gardens, okay, and then sell this food to market. And so the beautiful part is that, we can be there for ourselves. Marcus Garvey has done it, and we get to continue that legacy. Zambia, one of the projects I can talk about. So once you join the Ledge, you can become an investor and become in a business in Zambia, where for $3,000, you'll get access to 10 hectares of land that's yours in your name. They'll build a house for you, and there's farmers to tend to that land and grow food on that land. And the food, they'll sell it to market, and you share the profits that way. So it's a win-win situation between diasporic and Indigenous Africans. If you want to go to engage in building physically, you can. If you're not at that place where you're in a position to repatriate or want to repatriate, well, you can still be here. And, maybe what you want to do is, kind of like Airbnb style, where, they'll manage that for you. So these are the kind of solutions that we're interested in now. You know what I mean? It's like, it's action time, right?
That's leadership. And we have to choose our own leaders. You know, Queen Mother, Dr. Frances Cress Welsing, when I'm asked what female, uh, you know, African American I respect outside of my mother, that is the Queen Mother. Uh,
Yes.
it would be Dr. Frances Cress Welsing, because and she, her and Neely Fuller. I mean, she introduced me unknowingly to Neely Fuller because of Neely Fuller's. He had so much wisdom. Yet you will never be taught about Dr. Frances Cress Welsing or Neely Fuller in school, because they are the ones that brought, they're one of many who brought attention to the system of racism, white supremacy, and how the game is run, how the game is rigged, how, calling out how we treat each other and why, and that whole strategy that's used. And we're not going to learn about them, because then that teaches us the strategy. And when you said that, it took you years to figure, to realize what was going on, all of us, it took all of us years to understand what's going on, because uh, in my generation, I mean, my parents' generation, that was the civil rights struggle. I mean, I was a kid when the 60s and the Black Panther Party, I love the BPP. I was a little kid. I was small. And
Right.
so all that fighting, and then we had some gain. And so my generation, oh, we got the gain. We can go to this, we can do that, we can make this. And we had all this gain. And if you sit back and you look at history, his story, not our story, his story. In 1903, W.E.B. Du Bois had the Negro problem in Philadelphia. And the problem was, there were some unwed mothers, there were some things going on, some violence amongst, black on black violence, which, racists like to always point to, which I
Right.
have a great rebuttal for that.
Right.
Uh, and then we had, okay, 1903, but, our marriages were intact. And then we had the Moynihan Report in the 1960s, uh, where they said, well, the problem with the Negro family is, there's no men in the home, blah, 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 blah. But the thing is that when the New Deal was introduced and people needed help, the men had to leave the home
Right.
in order to get the help. So
Right.
in the 1950s and early 60s, about 78% of Black families were intact. Come 70s and 80s, okay, so we're intact, and in the 60s we're fighting. So what do? Uh, they murdered, assassinated our leaders, the ones that we chose.
Right. Right.
We chose Dr. King. We chose Medgar Evers. We chose SNCC. We chose Stokely Carmichael. We chose H. Rap Brown.
Right.
We chose Dr. Huey P. Newton and Bobby Seale and Chairman Fred Hampton. We chose them.
Right.
So what do? If they don't assassinate them, they get them another way and move them out the way. And everyone knows to get rid of the body, you got to cut off the head.
Right. Right.
So then we have, our elders that came through that. We had Dr. Leonard Jeffries, and we had, Dr. John Henry Clark, to name a few. And there's this resurgence. So in the 80s, when Spike Lee did the Malcolm X movie, we started saying, wait a minute, we got to move back to the struggle. And in moving back to the struggle, what do? We're moving back to the struggle. We got Malcolm X, we got X-Clan, hip hop is born. We're saying, hey, I got to get back in the game. What do? Crack.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Black Panther Party, COINTELPRO, heroin.
Right.
80s, crack. They gave us, Al Sharpton, Jesse Jackson. We had some of the civil rights leaders, John Connors, rest in power. But who is left that we chose? Reverend C.T. Vivian, rest in power. Who did we choose? When we choose, they get assassinated. So now it's a new ball game. This great awakening and leadership. What do you think about everyone being a leader, and how would we go about doing that?
Um, for everyone to be a leader, be open and have a great deal of humility in getting to know what we don't know. Because sometimes, we'll get a book and we'll get excited, read a couple of books, and we're like, okay, I have everything I need. Or some of us won't even pick up a book. We feel like, well, I wasn't born racist, or I wasn't this, and it's like really not understanding the definition of racism. A Black person can't be racist, things like that, little nuances. Have humility and be humble and be open and receive the uploads from our ancestors. Watch their videos, get their books, engage with people who have this knowledge, and do more listening than talking, more listening than talking. It's okay to just, take in the information, like a black hole that's hungry and feeding, take that information in. And once you're full, then you won't feed anymore. You'll just continue, to expand, to transform, to Kepra, and then rebirth, like Asar. And this transformation is amazing. You'll fly, soar like a butterfly. And the getting there is not easy, because that means everything you thought you knew, you let go, you destroy it. Everything that has us here where we're still dependent, we're still begging, yes, we know they owe us reparations, but are we waiting for them? Are we holding our breath? I'm not against anybody asking for it and organizing for it. I support that, they owe us, they do. In the meantime, what can we control? What's in our control? We got information and we got resources and people that we can build with right now. And building in Africa it's not running away. It's getting better footing, understanding that we've been engaged in a war we didn't ask to be in. Well, it's not really a war on our behalf, because in war, you control your own water. How long are you going to survive without water? 72 hours, then what? How long do we survive without electricity, and food? So let's be open to this knowledge and information, but it's important to have practical follow-up with practical application. That's where the therapy is, that's where the healing is, in the action, in purposeful, purposeful action, right? In collaboration, being open to build in collaboration, because we're not islands, all this, we're told to social distance. What does that even mean? Like, so that means I gotta feel you beat the drum through the screen. I can't feel the vibration in a cipher of us beating drums together, us dancing together, us building and ciphering together. That's where God is. When you're talking about African people, Black people, it's in our togetherness. That's why they came up with another term and another directive. Massa gave orders to the Negroes on the plantation. Are we African or are we Negroes?
Or are we people of color, or are we colored? Or we are. I mean, you're talking about building in Africa, and I've been there. But we're here in America, and we are also foundational Black Americans. And how do we create leaders to build here? Because wherever we are, it's hard to build somewhere else and not build where you are, because when you leave it, you leave your people, you leave people that you grew up with, your family. That leadership is so important. And then we talked about Marcus Garvey and Charlotte Patrick and Charlotte Hill O'Neill left and went to Tanzania. Geronimo Pratt left and went to Tanzania, and that's where I was, in Tanzania. And there are people right now. There's expatriates, like you said, they're leaving, but most of us are not, and we've got to sit here. And we built this land, so it's not like, okay, we built it, now we're gonna leave. It's a choice, but we have to have leadership. But everyone, some people think we need that one person. Like, no one wants to talk about the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. He is a leader, and they want to say bad things about him, and oh, he's this and he's that. But I've been listening to him for years, and all he's saying is, love yourself. I will not advocate for another group if I can't advocate for myself first.
I
So you're not gonna, if your next door neighbor's house is on fire, aren't you gonna make sure that your house is okay first before you put out their fire? Or are you gonna go run and put out their fire, and by the time you finish putting out their fire, your house is now burnt down?
Right.
So how do you see leadership, and who do you think are some leaders now?
So I want to answer your question about the, or your remark about putting out somebody else's fire. So like with building in Africa, it doesn't mean that you're necessarily abandoning here. You know what I mean? It's getting leverage. It's anchoring. It's like, so there are a lot of us here who, not me personally yet, who have businesses, right? You're engaged here in America with your business, right? There are a lot of us where our supply chain is controlled by the dominant society. So we don't control the market, therefore we can't control the pricing. So we're dependent on what they're doing. And a lot of the resources that they're getting and marking up is from where? Africa.
Yeah.
Right?
It's a huge markup.
So they're taking the stuff from our motherland and selling it back to us to sell back to our customers. Well, let's cut the middleman out. Let's deal directly with our people. And at the same time, make sure our people are being fairly compensated and treated. Right? So it's a win-win situation. It's not one or the other. You know what I mean? It's the true essence of Ubuntu, of Ujima, Ujama, collective work and responsibility, cooperative economics. It's self-determination, Kujichagulia. If anyone has the idea that we could just do this solo as African Americans, what we're called, well, how have we been doing? How's that been working out for us?
This is my point. We cannot depend on, throughout our story, because at the end of the day, this is about our story.
Yes.
Well, our story, they only seem to pick certain people. Well, this was a leader, this is a leader, this person's a leader. You remember, there's only a certain amount of people that they tell us about, and they tell us about the same people every single year, from K through 12, the same people every year. We should all be experts on these same people.
Right.
But there are so many others that did great work.
Yes.
So many others. The last episode, I talked about our rebellions, and I didn't talk about Denmark VC because there's just so many, and there's only so much that you can talk about in a certain amount of time.
Right.
So if we knew how many leaders we actually had, if we knew how many revolutionaries actually, because education is a revolutionary act.
Absolutely.
Farming is a super revolutionary act. Growing your own food.
That's
which
right.
we do that, you know. I'm a holistic practitioner. Healing is a revolutionary act.
Ashe.
Wearing the clothes of your ancestors is a revolutionary act. Your name is revolutionary. But that's leadership when you stand up and you say, this is who I am. I'm Jasiri Hopi, and I'm going to do these things on the continent. And, you know, I'm about, you know, vibrating higher for my people and building wells and getting into these organizations. That's leadership. And today's leadership, because of social media, this is just my opinion. Everybody wants to be, what do you call it? An influencer. But what are they influencing? There are some people, and some may not agree with these people, but you know what? You don't look at the messenger, you listen to the message, and you find the jewel in the message. Riza Islam is trying to tell us.
I love him.
Love him. Don't let these people tell you what to do with your body.
That's right.
TariqNasheed, great historian, is trying to tell us
him as well.
Hey, nobody's coming. We got to do it.
Yes.
Vickidillard. She's her gavel, the receipt.
Oh, yes.
There's another sister up in the Lancaster, Palmdale area. Erica Lashai. I don't know if I'm saying the last name right. That sister's on it. These are young people. And if you look at the leadership in the 60s, you know, these leaders, you know, Chairman Fred, H. Rap Brown, they're like they're like 20 and 21 years old.
Mm-hmm. You're right.
They're young.
Yes. And they're, you know, they're you like Fred Hampton, looking at him, you're like, wait a minute, you seem so much older. And you know, our people had to grow up so fast, you know. But the thing is that we're born advanced, and when we're in our truth, we're going to be advanced. And then you have the alien culture where you have to grow up even faster, but because it puts checks in place to retard your growth, to stall your growth, to stifle it, right? And so it's absolutely beautiful when you have people who stand in their truth and have that courage, you know, to say, you know, regardless what people think, I have a right to be human and to speak about my cares and my concerns, our goals as a Black person, as an Afro-American person, a whole 100% person, not 3/5 of a human being. You know, that they're still treating us that way. And
it's still on the books.
And they're casting a wider net now. I mean, they're inviting everybody to the party. You know,
that's the truth. That's the truth, Ruth.
Right?
Everybody's invited. They've now, like, it's, I'm all for inclusion, but when you include, and you have inclusion to the point where you pretty much annihilate the struggle of the group that started it.
Right.
And all the resources are going somewhere else. And you have this blanket statement, minority, with the etymology of that word.
Who is that?
Significant.
Right.
People of color, everybody has some kind of color. And so
veterans
the
are
fight
minorities.
gets watered down. Yeah, it becomes everybody else gets in on that, but they divert it to themselves. We, as highly melanated people, we have to learn to raise up each person to be a leader, because you can't get rid of everybody at the same time.
That's right.
And what happened was they assassinated leaders, and then there was no one to raise up behind them to take their place. And
That's
yes, it's
right.
frightening knowing that you're going to die. You want to hold on to your life. You do. But there's different ways to fight for equity and equality. There's
Right.
so many different ways to do it. So many different ways.
And you bring up a good point. A lot of people are afraid to die. And and that's because we've been inculcated with a Western idea of what death is, right? That's all under the religion umbrella, right? Um, we think of death as a finality. That's the end. But when you think about, the best of African culture, it's a speed bump within a lifetime, eternal continuum, right? We come down to this planet to observe ourselves. We come from the stars to observe ourselves, in human form, in this human body temple that practitioners like you, advise us to take good care of with life food, not that processed crap that they market to us in supersize me portions.
Mm-hmm.
And then we want to blame a virus for our condition when we're committing what Baba Wadu calls suicide. It's like,
I like
no.
that. Suicide. I like that.
You know what I mean? It's like, no. We get to decolonize what our oppressor put into us, that has us thinking that we can eat all this garbage and expect to be okay, and think that this is going to, protect us from this. No, you know what I mean? So the leader is seated within when we unapologetically share our stories, when we share our Nat Turner stories and Jean Jacques Dessalines stories and Toussaint L'Ouverture stories, Santua stories, Hatshepsut stories. You know what I mean? I just purchased a story for a friend of mine, our friend's daughter, yesterday. She had her solar return party. It's beautiful. None of us were wearing this or anything. We were just free and happy, and the babies were, skateboarding and everything, and with the full lung capacity. And it was just beautiful. And it's one of the gifts we got for her is the story of the Queen of Benin. It's a company called Ancestors. Ancestries.
Oh.
Okay. Beautiful, beautiful book. I'm going to have to order another one, because when I showed it to our youngest daughter, she's like, the illustrations are nice. Can you get us one? So I'm going to order one. Ancestries. Yes. Ancestries. That's the first book. Beautifully illustrated, hardcover book, and it's textured on the outside, like the young queen. You can kind of feel the part of her hair is beveled up, so you can feel textures of her outfit, on the cover. Very nicely done. But it's important our children see themselves, 5-star in their books, in their movies, in their events. At this event, at the party, the parents purchased donuts, vegan donuts, from a sister in LA that makes the donuts. They're going to send me the name, but there are things that we can do to Africanize our daily experiences. They could have got a cake from the local grocery store, but they drove from Orange County to LA to show our beloved sister some love, because each of our events is an input into somebody's society, right? Why not ours?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right?
Absolutely.
So, when the children see that, oh, I got, some of the decorations here are from Black businesses. Oh, the cake is from a Black business. Oh, what mom and dad is wearing, it's from a Black business. That's the curriculum. You know, that's a beautiful curriculum right there,
That's the
right?
most powerful curriculum because we model.
Right?
Our children can only become leaders if we teach them how. And that's not just telling them, you got to go to college and get a degree. You got to do this. You got to do that. Because a college degree really is a college degree in Eurocentric education. I have a few of
Ashe,
those.
right.
I have a few of
Yes.
those. Um, and my doctorate, I love uh, Dr. Wade Nobles and
Okay.
and Nobles and Goddard. He is, in my opinion, the father of African American family studies. And I was studying him for my doctorate.
Uh-huh.
I wanted a doctorate in African American family studies, and there was no
Okay.
such doctorate anywhere in the country.
Wow.
So I had to convince the university to let me do it this way. And they did. And so
Beautiful.
and so every research paper, because I'm research, my degree is research oriented. Every
Uh-huh.
research paper that I wrote had to do with the Black family.
Beautiful.
And the most wonderful thing, and I tried to reach uh, him, I tried to reach Dr. Noble so many times. I sent so many emails and I didn't get a response. And then I was in
Uh,
San Jose and I was teaching for UC Davis, and they sent me to San Jose.
uh-huh.
And I'm teaching this, I have this group, and this man keeps saying, God, you sound just like my father. You sound just like my father. And so we're all getting
Wow.
ready to go to lunch. And I'm like, he's like, wow, it's like I'm listening to my father.
Yes.
And I said, who's your father? He said, oh, my father was a professor at Frisco State. I said, really? I said, he said, you sound just like him. I'm like, who is he? He said, Dr. Wade Nobles. And I was like,
Ashe. Wow.
teaching your son.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Oh, I was like,
Whoa.
I'm teaching your son. And he just verified I sound just like him. That was the highest honor I could have. I couldn't even, we came back to class. I had to get myself together
Yes, yes.
that, that this man was a leader and he still is, and has no idea of how many leaders he created just by his research, writing his books,
Ashe.
and having his
Mm,
videos. So everything you
yes.
do right now, this discussion, even though we've gone in a few different areas, your children will see that and say, my mother stood up and had this conversation. That's leadership.
Mm, Well, it's so beautiful that you share that story. Like the ancestors were like, no, she gotta get in alignment, get connected with him, and that his son would be in your classroom. That's so divine, you know.
So, I know our time is almost up, but um, thinking about, the leadership, the young people coming up now that are leaders, and then also our elders who are still here, like Dr. Claude Anderson, Dr. Boyce Walken. We're talking about
Ashe, yes.
economics and getting ourselves together economically. People like them. And I'm sitting here and I'm looking at, I have a whole library of, books by, our scholars,
Yes,
you know,
yes.
and even in my holistic journey, Dr. Laila Africa and Dr.
Ashe.
Sebi,
Yes,
I've really in depth
yes.
studied Dr. Laila Africa, his holistic self-diagnosis. So there's so much uh, in talking about our story,
Yes, yes.
you know, Imhotep, the first physician, our story, leadership is in our blood. How we ended up being, quote, on the bottom, unquote, is not because we lack leadership.
Oh yeah,
It's
absolutely.
not because of that. Every time a leader rose, they snuffed him out or they tried to push him down. And we
Right.
have to make a decision to not let anybody do that. And we're going to have to vibrate higher. And what are your
Absolutely.
last comments about this?
Our leaders are everywhere. They're everywhere and within. If we're taking in decolonized information in order to decolonize ourselves. So, you name some great people. And I mean, we could go on and on. We could talk about, Baba Kidiawadu's book, Panic, What the Coronavirus, well, I said the word, tells us about the state of the world. You got...
You don't know how bad I want to have that conversation.
Yes, I can't. I'm looking forward to that segment.
Yeah.
Where you have Shesh Jegna Siddiqui Bakari sharing empowering information through his Empower book. Brother Heru of 40 Atta, he had a brother on his call. I believe his name is Ortiz Garbiite. No, not Ortiz Garbiite. Ortiz Garbiite actually was an excellent person that he had on the call. That's how I learned about the Ledge Group and the many opportunities there. And well, if you could get him on your show. Sorry, I got a little janky set up here. This is what I'm doing until I have a proper equipment. So, but he was having a discussion with someone else, and I can't think of his name right now, but he's a professor at MIT, and he was talking about how he got into engineering and everything because of, the influences in his life. And his parents got him into a rites of passage program, and I believe the dad was instrumental in it. And the book that inspired the rites of passage program is called Herbach, the Egyptian Initiate. And so I just loved his journey because, like I said, our son, we hit so many roadblocks with the school system, making like something was wrong with them and everything. And it's like, no, it's not something, there's something wrong with the system. And when we buy into it and make sure that our children are on this so-called straight and narrow path to, scholarly, you got to interrupt that, And so I did sign our children up for a couple of weeks in African-centered education through Brother Marcus Klein School, Freedom Home Academy. And that was really good exposure for Cameron because he helped them a lot with his physics. And so Cameron has an A in physics and he does his physics work with confidence, He's 16 now, he's a sophomore. Another person who has helped him is Baba Shuja Baker, who
yes, that's my brother. We had him on the first show.
Yes,
a couple of times.
Yes, and and I watched that segment, beautiful segment about our ancestor Ivan Van Sertima. It's like when you listen to the ancestors, you're put in connection with beautiful spirits, and it is just amazing how we edify each other. I purchased these from Baba Shuja, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
See these beauties right here. So I was so excited that the Nguzo Saba was here. So like if I want to, I'm really feeling a principle for that day, this is a part of my meditation. I'll wear the earrings, Another great leader, Brother Thomas T.J. Lofton, he talks about gentrification, this brother, I'm sure you're familiar with him, is amazing, and he wants the young people to know that go beyond this whole notion of just going to college and getting the so-called good education to what end? What skills do you have? Can you build? Can you build your shelter? Can you build? Like, so he talks about drywall and flooring and all that good stuff.
The trades.
The trades. Can you build cars? It like those, of course we can build all those things, but when they took the trades out of the schools, and it just had us doing paperwork. Well, now you're vulnerable because they don't need you for that paperwork.
You think just like me. We have
Okay.
another channel. You think just like me. My husband and I have another channel. It's Organic City Homesteaders, where we teach you how to plant your food. And,
Ashe.
and we got off of it for a while because, I got busy, committed to some other things, but
Right.
we teaching you how to put in, doors and do work on your house, because what we found is when my husband knows how to do all that, but I was trying to save his body and say, okay, let's get somebody in here to do some of this and take it off your back. But
Yes.
we couldn't find anybody that looked like us to do it. We wanted
Mm,
to return, to patronize, Black businesses, and we could
right.
not find that. And
Yeah.
so what has happened in my generation, we went to school. Now you said you have 16-year-old.
Yes.
You don't look like it, but we don't age. But you don't look like it. So when I say my generation, I have to be careful because I don't really know your age and I don't want you to say it. But we had home ec. We had
It's
what
okay. 44.
we had SCROC, ROP, where we could go get training and get, we had work experience,
Right.
you
Right.
school early and go to work and get credit for it. So they don't have these things like that anymore. Not to
Right.
that, we had these programs where in the summer you could get a job at 13 and work for the city. We had that. They don't
Right.
have
Right.
that anymore. And so what that did was that created leaders. The beautiful thing now is, though some of us have dropped the ball, I have to say it, the other part of us have said, I had this opportunity, you may not get it, so let me make sure that you have access to these things so that you can,
Yes.
at the end of the day, your degree, if all you know how to do is work on a computer and the computers are down, then what?
That's
So
right. That's
leadership
right.
says, if I'm going to lead my people, am I going to do what King said and lead them into a burning house? Or am I going to lead them to be able to be self-sustainable?
Ashe.
It's not about
Yes.
politics. It's
No.
about being self-sustainable.
Yep, being self-sustainable. I mean, as Baba Kitty says, growing your own food is like printing money, you know. And so if you don't have a big backyard space, don't let that, discourage you. Start with little
Yeah.
pots, and I'm speaking to myself right now because we're in a condo, so there's no backyard or front yard. There's a
But you
patio,
can grow it
but
in your house.
you can grow it in the house. And
Mhm.
Baba Eric McNeil, he was doing a video in Ghana, and in one of the videos there was this beautiful terracotta colored tower, with all of these pockets, and at the bottom was a compost tray. And I was like, where did you get that from? That's what I typed. And he was like, oh, I don't know if they make it anymore, but it's a garden tower or something like that. So I Googled it and I found it. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to put my pennies aside to invest in this because, again, that's good curriculum for the children to see that, okay, we're growing our food and we're eating our herbs from our garden. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
that's, come on, we got to be able to feed ourselves and share what we grow, so that when we do have land and space to sprawl out, we can start, we're in practice, you know,
Absolutely.
we're in
Absolutely.
practice, baby steps, So let the baby steps, let it take place within, you know what I mean? I don't claim to be a leader per se. However, I do respect the birthing process of the sprouting within. And if anybody sees that as leadership, I say Asante Sana, for that reflection. But I'm definitely always a student, always growing. You know what I mean? We stand on shoulders, and there are people who've been doing this for a long time, and I'm open and listening and learning and doing checks within, like, okay, can I modify this? Can I tweak that? Okay, this is this works. Okay, can we expand that? Or that's not working, can we put that aside? You know what I mean? It's a constant cultivation. And our nation is only as healthy as our family. So it starts right here at home. Are we on the same page? Are we all decolonizing? What's our struggle? Some of us are, some of us are not, because that's a reflection of our nation. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
so I just honor your I say honor. Let's honor our humanity and where we are, and meet ourselves where we are, and be open to growing and learning, and not be afraid of listening to our brothers. Our brothers are the most oppressed people on the planet. Let me make sure I look at this time here.
I have it. I got it.
Okay, our brothers are the most oppressed people on the planet. We need to stop calling them conspiracy theorists. We need to stop it. Yes, we could do our research, but when people are putting projections on the table, analysis on the table, it's okay to anticipate what may happen ahead. That's what you do in war. This isn't just, oh, la 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 la. This is serious. Like, we're having a hard time sleeping at night. You know what I mean? This
Absolutely.
is serious.
Absolutely. But again, it's in closing, and I was supposed to say like, subscribe, share. I'm not used to saying that so much because I really get into the dialogue.
Yeah.
But for those of you that are watching, well, if you've seen this one, then you've probably seen the others. Like, subscribe, share, comment. If you have something to say it. We will answer you. This was about leadership, but there's no leadership without discussing those things that create a leader. And I want to thank my guest today, Jasiri Hopi, for being here and having a conversation. I could talk to her for probably 2 hours. I'm feeling her, but it's time for the show to end. So again, like, subscribe, share, comment, and I'm going to leave you with forever forward, never backwards. Peace, Hotep, Shalom.
Hotep,
This is
Shalom.
Harrell Kagler, Interventions.
Ashe.